then I sip, drink, 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 drink. These pearly whites ain't look the same, 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 same. I did everything the wrong way, hey, hey, hey. And now I'm fighting off this plate. This mirror ain't showing the same.
To the Gaswords podcast. We are the Gaswords boys. I'm Kyle. I use he, they pronouns, and joining me from our beautiful Colorado studio is our good friend Arden.
And I use him pronouns.
Yes, and in the pals, you might notice a slight difference in our production, and that is because we actually are reading you some nice sleep stories tonight, some creepypastas.
Oh, it's so scary.
Full ASMR here. All right, I think I need to cut that bit there because
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if that's what was actually happening?
Oh my god, that'd be awful. Hello, everyone. Welcome to
Hi.
the show today. Sorry for that awful sonic attack at the beginning there.
We like to goof and gaff, all right?
We got to do a little bit. But
lost
yeah,
the echo.
we're gonna be doing some creepypastas for you guys today. This is we've said it, God, what, 15 times now on the
If
show.
you've been following it, yeah.
But for those of you who are new and don't know, this is really the first domino that fell in the creation of the Backaswords podcast as we know it today. Both Arden and I were very into creepypastas as young adults, not adults, young children.
Yes. Hey, let's be frank, right?
Yeah, maybe a little too early for some of the things that we were reading, but
Oh boy, yep.
yeah, we're not going to be getting, I don't know anything about we don't know anything about each other's stories for today.
No.
But speaking for mine, there's nothing too grotesque. So
Yes. I will say trigger warning for, I guess, a mention of suicide in my story.
yeah.
So be advised of that. Other than that, it's pretty tame. It's spooky though. It's scary. It'll make you creepy crawly.
Absolutely. And if you're curious and maybe want to read along, we will be linking our sources in the description as always. But of course, you guys, despite linking to the stories that we're reading in the sources and having ASMR skills out the wazoo, we are not scholars.
No.
Probably going to be getting some things wrong.
Like saying we have ASMR skills.
And we are probably not linguists, and we are probably going to say some things wrong as well.
Absolutely.
Now, hold on to your asses, because things are about to get backwards. And it's first in the outline, so I guess Arden will go first with your story here.
Right, yes. And
And
tonight...
let's get our lighting fixed here. Oh my goodness.
Yes, we need to fix the
Ready?
lighting.
Cut.
Yes, and now that we are back, I am going to be starting us off tonight by reading a story called Click the Link by Anonymous. This comes from creepypasta.com. I had always loved horror movies. In my younger days, I may not have realized it, but I was a glutton for the terror that the films would instill in me. I subconsciously loved how they kept me up at night, small, fearful eyes scanning my bedroom shadows for whatever sort of creature may be calling the darkness its home. It was to the point where I would wake up in the early hours of the morning, around 1 a.m. or so, to sneak into the living room and watch the late night screamers that would often air. Often, I would get caught by my mother or father about a half hour into my shenanigans, seated on the couch and wrapped in my blankie while clutching a teddy bear with eyes fixated on the television screen. I would be sent to bed immediately, told that my punishment would come in the morning. It never did. My parents were too tired at the time to actually remember apprehending me. On a rare occasion, though, I'd managed to make it all the way through a film, from the time I'd slipped into the couch to the moment the credits rolled. At that point, the trudge back to my bedroom was a mad dash of fright, trying to evade any and all monsters or bugaboos that in my impressionable mind would grab at me and take me away. I was always successful in the return trip. It made me feel like Indiana Jones. I don't love horror films anymore. Not after what happened. I was in college when the event occurred. While most people associate university with wild parties, copious amounts of alcohol, and finding as many people to have anonymous sex with, my version of the experience was more tame by those standards. The evenings not spent furiously poring over my projects and classwork were spent with my one true love, my Netflix account. From the moment my last class of the day ended, I was wrapped in the sweet embrace the internet had waiting for me. I would return to my dorm, slip into my bedroom and into something more comfortable, and spend until about 4 a.m. watching whatever horrors the streaming site had available to me. And for the price of $7.99 a month, it was the best and cheapest addiction I'd ever encountered. The people I chose to interact with when I wasn't glued to my laptop were often of the same ilk that I was, individuals who were just as obsessive over movies. We loved to be scared, and we often spoke of it. We compared reviews, discussed theories, and often got together to partake in these pieces of nightmare fuel, usually once a week on a Saturday in a grand marathon session that was catered by the local pizza place and a large snack trip beforehand to prepare for when we were sick of the smell of grease and cheese. Many of us were members of a horror enthusiast forum to meet and talk with more people who shared our twisted ideas of entertainment. I've since removed myself completely from that site. Due to the vast duration of time that I'd been with my Netflix account, I'd practically exhausted their selection of movies to stream that were of my tastes. I'd watched the classics, the cult favorites, the flops, the silent, the screamers, the spookers, the slashers, the foreign. Short of paying extra for a DVD plan, my partner in crime was becoming repetitive. I'd even resorted to watching the one stars, the films that were too terrible to even consider horror, but still somehow made the list, filled with poorly crafted CG effects that were more terrifying than the monsters they were trying to scare me with. I lamented this to my forum mates, complaining of the lack of fresh choices upon the site that filled my browser history. Many of my friends from school were having the same problems and were voicing their woes within the same thread that I had begun. Looking back on it, I realize now that this was the worst mistake I could have ever made. Had I not started that thread, some of us might have still remained among the living, finding new ways to garner our thrills. Scream Queen 69, her username from the forum, because I won't refer to anyone by their true name to protect their families. Scream Queen 69 had approached us at the meeting grounds the following day. Our usual location of gathering was behind a campus building, an area of concrete that sloped downwards to a door that we all assumed led to the back of the art department basement. The top of the wall that enclosed our cold stone hill blocked off by fence so none could accidentally fall and injure themselves. As our group sat and talked, SQ had arrived, looking a little worse for wear. There were dark circles under her eyes, looking tired, and her face was pale. She often looked so bright and sun-kissed, full of energy. She had said that shortly after she posted on the forums the night before, she had been contacted by another member asking if she wanted to watch something that, as she spoke and gave air quotes with her fingers, would change the genre for her forever. And then proceeded to send her a link to an obscure site that she'd never heard of before. Tween Wolf rolled his eyes, suggesting that they were only trying to suggest a film for her to watch and that she was being crazy for ignoring them. I was growing concerned, however, as she recounted that she originally ignored the person. They sent her messages constantly afterwards. They started out mild enough, along the lines of, "Did you watch it? And what did you think?" And as the night went on, they got more violent. Scream Queen showed me the chat history, and toward the end, it seemed that her chat partner named Behind You was getting more and more agitated. The messages were becoming desperate. "Did you click the link yet? You should click the link. You won't regret it. Click the link. Click the damn link already. Click the fucking link." It was at that point that I grew incredibly concerned for my friend. No one else had received these messages, only her. My only advice to her was to ignore it and perhaps stay off the site for a few days. If this person didn't see her online, perhaps they would lose interest and back off. It wasn't the case, however, as Scream Queen would come to us for the next couple of days looking more and more haggard, saying that she couldn't rest at night. Behind You was still messaging her, and at this point, it was just a repeat of the original link pasted over and over and over. She was starting to get emails sent to her school email account. She didn't know how they had gotten it. Her email address wasn't listed on the forum, and it wasn't even the same one she'd registered on the site with. The sender would be blank, the subject line empty, and the message was always the same: click the link. Her inbox was flooded with at least 100 emails by the time she returned from classes, all the same. And then texts. An unknown number of all zeros at all hours of the day. Click the link. Even when her phone was on silent, the sound would still ring out. It was turned off and it would ring. She would remove the battery completely and still be startled by the noise of her text tone. She had submerged her phone in water and tried to damage it to get rid of the noise. Still, it rang. She had put it in the microwave and turned it on for 5 minutes, knowing that if the appliance was broken, she would have to pay for a replacement, seeing as the appliance was provided by the dorm building. Even burnt and melted in places, the battery removed and fried, it rang. It was getting to the point where Scream Queen was growing more and more frazzled. Each and every cell phone going off around her was causing her to shriek. By the 5th day, she hadn't shown up to lunch. Most of us assumed she was just trying to catch up on sleep from the incident keeping her up at night. We didn't realize she had died until 2 days later, when her roommate complained about a smell coming from her room. The police blocked off the dorm room, and her roommate was moved out to live with someone else in the building. They ruled it as a suicide, claiming that Scream Queen had overdosed on sleeping pills. She had been found slumped over on her desk in front of her laptop, with the forum pulled up on her browser. I had managed to worm my way into her room a few days after the cleanup had ended. Her family lived on the other side of the country and wouldn't be in for another day or two to gather her things, and I had convinced the building RA that Scream Queen 69 had been in possession of a few of my items, and I just needed to get them back before they were mistakenly removed with her belongings. The RA had left me there, saying that the doors would lock behind me once I left. Alone in the room where my friend had passed, I removed the laptop from her desk, not wanting to sit in her death throne, and moved it over to the bed. Scream Queen never kept her items password protected and left herself logged in on everything, So it was easy enough to turn the computer on and navigate my way back to the very forum that she had been looking at when she died. I had found my way to her inbox looking at the hundreds of messages from her apparent stalker when I noticed something different. Out of the mass of links, one of them was purple. It had been clicked. I grew curious. What was it about this movie that made this person so obsessive to show it to Scream Queen? Was it the thing that had driven Scream Queen to kill herself? I clicked the link. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The video was dark, as though it was trying to slowly process the images. Then, things were starting to come into focus. A desk, posters on the wall, a person sitting on the bed, a person standing behind them with a large, toothy grin. It was at this point that I realized I was staring at my own face, sitting in Scream Queen's bedroom. Her posters behind me. The webcam light was on. Oh, God, dude.
Oh, it's so
Spooky.
good.
Spooky, spooky, spooky.
That's a
Once
good one.
again, that was Click the Link by Anonymous.
I would watch that short
I
story.
know, right?
Short
It
film.
would be so good. And now, coming up last, but most certainly not least, folks, my good friend Kyle.
Hello. I'll be reading If You're Armed and at the Glenmont Metro, Please Shoot Me. And this is by Peter Frost David. If you're armed and at the Glenmont Metro, please shoot me. Make it a headshot. Shoot me in the temple, aiming slightly downwards. I need the bullet to travel the shortest possible distance through my brain before it hits my hippocampus. If I'm lucky, the sensation of the gunshot ripping through my skull will only last a few decades. As awful as that sounds, you'll be doing me an enormous favor. Death by headshot, as soon as possible, is vastly better than the alternative. My ordeal started over 10,000 years ago at 10:15 this morning. I earn extra money by participating in drug trials. I'm a so-called healthy subject who takes experimental drugs to help assess side effects. Once it was a kidney drug, a few times it's been something for blood pressure or cholesterol. This morning, they told me the drug I took was a psychoactive substance intended to accelerate brain function. None of the drugs I had tested so far have ever done anything for me in the recreational sense. In other words, none of the drugs I've tested have given me a killer buzz or mellowed me out or anything like that. Maybe I've always ended up on the placebo group, but nothing I've tested has affected me at all. But this drug was different. This shit worked. They gave me a pill at 10:15 and told me to hang out in the waiting room until they called me back for some tests. Only about 30 minutes, the research assistant had told me. I flopped onto the waiting room couch and read a few articles from a copy of Psychology Today that was sitting on the coffee table. They hadn't called me back when I finished the Psychology Today, so I picked up a US News and read it cover to cover. Then, I read an old Scientific American. What was taking them so goddamn long? I sluggishly turned my head to look at the wall clock. It was only 10:23 a.m. I had read all 3 magazines in 8 minutes. I remember thinking that this was going to be a long day. I was right. The waiting room had a little bookshelf with some used hardcovers on it. When I stood to walk to the bookshelf, it felt like my legs barely worked. It's not that they were weak, they were just slow. It took a full minute to just stand up off the couch and another minute to take 2 steps to the bookcase. I scanned the old books on the shelf and picked out a copy of Moby Dick. My arms had the same problem as my legs. Just reaching 1 foot in front of me to grab the book took a long time. I actually got bored just waiting for my hand to reach the spine of the book. I slogged back to the couch and collapsed onto it in a slow motion fall that reminded me of the low gravity hops of astronauts on the moon. I opened Moby Dick slowly and began reading. I started with Call Me Ishmael and got as far as Ahab throwing his pipe into the sea, which was all the way to the friggin' chapter 30 before they called me back. "How are you feeling?" the research assistant asked me. "I feel slow," I said. "Actually, it's the other way around. Everything seems slow because you're so fast." "But my legs, my arms, they're moving in slow motion." "Your body seems like it's moving slowly because your brain is fast. Your brain is running 10 or 20 times faster than normal. You are thinking and perceiving reality at an accelerated pace, but your body is still constrained by the laws of biomechanics. Frankly, you're moving much faster than a normal person." She pantomimed a jogging motion. "But your brain is running so much faster right now that even your fast walk seems very slow to you." I thought about my slow motion flop onto the waiting room couch. Even if my muscles had slowed down, my body would still react to gravity the same way. But in the waiting room, I even fell in slow motion. Slow muscles couldn't explain why gravity seemed weaker. My brain was going at warp 10. That's how I managed to read 3 magazines and the first 30 chapters of Moby Dick in 15 minutes. They ran a series of tests on me. The physical tests were fun. They made me juggle 3 balls, then 4, then 6. And I had no problem keeping 6 balls in the air because they seemed to be moving so slowly. It was boring, frankly, waiting for each ball to move through its arc so I could catch it with my slow motion hands and toss it back into the air. They threw Cheerios in the air and I caught them with chopsticks. They dropped a handful of coins and I counted the total value before they hit the ground. The cognitive tests were less fun, but very illuminating. Finish a 50-word search, 3 seconds. Solve an intricate maze drawn onto poster-sized paper, 2 seconds. View a slideshow projected at 10 images per second and answered detailed questions about what I saw, 95% correct. They told me I measured over 250 on the Knopf scale. Apparently that is deep into superhuman range of thinking speeds. Then they sent me home. "It'll wear off in a few hours," they said, "which will seem like days to you. Try to use the residual effects to get some work done. Catch up on work emails while you're still in high speed mode." The ride home was horrible. It was only 3 metro stops, and in real world time, it only took about 35 minutes. But in my drug accelerated hyper time, it felt like days. Just walking out of the medical research suite to the elevator seemed like it took an hour. I sprinted out of the office, willing my legs to push me faster, but the laws of biomechanics held me prisoner. As accelerated as my brain was, I couldn't do anything to make my legs work faster. The huge disconnect between my body and my mind made it extremely difficult to judge how and when to slow down, turn, or rotate my body. I had basically turned into a giant slow motion spaz. I misjudged my speed and rammed into the wall by the elevator button at pretty good speed. Even though I could see the wall coming at me, I couldn't make my finger outstretched to hit the elevator button move away fast enough, and I jammed it against the wall hard. The pain was intense. If my brain had been running at regular speed, it only would have hurt for 30 seconds or so. But in my accelerated state, the intense pain seemed to last for half an hour, 45 minutes maybe. The elevator ride was horrible. It felt like I spent 4 or 5 hours just descending 7 floors, with nothing to look at but the interior of an elevator car. I sprinted to the metro station. I have to admit, this part was almost fun. Even though my body moved at what seemed to me super slow speed, I could still carefully choose how and where to place my feet, swing my arms, and turn my torso. It only took a block or two to get used to having a brain that ran 24 times faster than my body. Then I basically sprint danced the rest of the way, twisting and juking between people on the sidewalk and dodging moving cars within inches or minutes of clearance. I spent an hour in my time frame descending into the subway and running to the platform. Endless tedium and waiting the 6 minutes for the red line train to arrive. Although there was more to look at on the metro platform than inside the elevator, it was still intensely boring. I thought I should have stolen that copy of Moby Dick. The red line train roared into the station in slow motion. The normally high-pitched squeal of its brakes was frequency shifted by my high-speed mind to take a long, low tone, like a monotone tuba solo. It wasn't just the squealing subway train that was 3 octaves lower than normal. All sound was slowed to the point of near inaudibility. Voices were gone, shifted below the threshold of frequency of my hearing. I did manage to hear a screaming baby on my subway car. Her shriek slowed to sound like whale songs. Sharp sounds like car horns and trucks bouncing over potholes were low, muddied roars like distant thunder. Back at the research offices, I could still hear and communicate with the research staff, but now verbal communications with anyone would be impossible. The effects of the drug were still intensifying. I spent what seemed like days on that fucking red line train. Days. Listening to the whale song of the screaming baby and the tuba solo of the brakes, where ordinary voices were frequency shifted out of my audio range, smells didn't seem to be affected. I never became noseblind to the body odor, to the stench of the train's brakes, and a melange of farts and other smells wafting through the metro car. Finally got back to my apartment. Sprinting through my open door and into the front hall at full speed was like a slow, relaxing drift down a lazy river. I was relieved to be home. At least I had stuff I could do there. I picked up the book I was reading, 100 Years of Solitude, and finished it. Despite turning the pages so quickly that I tore many of them, it seemed like most of the time I spent finishing the book was spent on the page turning and not actually reading. 3 minutes had passed since I got home. I tried surfing the internet. My God, it takes a long time for computers to boot these days, but it was too frustratingly slow. Hours, seemingly, to load each new page and a fraction of a second to read it. 100 articles in my newsfeed read and just 3 more minutes done. I dipped into my pile of yet-to-be-read books and finished 2 more. 4 minutes had passed. I decided to try and sleep off the remaining effects of the drug. Unfortunately, whatever part of my mind is responsible for perception, the part that's been accelerated to hyper speeds by the drug, isn't the same part that governs sleep. Despite being awake for what I perceived as days, my physical brain still thought it was 1:25 p.m. and it was not ready for sleep. Nevertheless, I tried to sleep. I walked to my bedroom, a slow 45-minute drift through my apartment, and flung myself into bed, lazily falling like a feather onto the mattress. I closed my eyes and laid there for hours and hours. 10 minutes in reality time before giving up. Sleep would not come. I was facing what was going to feel like days or maybe even weeks of being trapped in a slow motion prison. So I took an Ambien. The sensation of the pill and the splash of water I used to swallow it sliding in my throat was sickening. A lump that blocked my breathing, moving like a slug down my esophagus. I read a book. 10 minutes had passed. I read another 18 minutes since I had taken the Ambien. I threw the book across the room in disgust at my situation. The book slowly pirouetted and spun through the air like a leaf blowing in a breeze. It hit the wall with a long, faint rumble, the only sound I had heard for what seemed like hours, then drifted to the floor like a flip-flop swinging in a swimming pool. The force of gravity hadn't changed since I took the pill. The laws of physics were the same. It was just my perception of time that had gone wackadoo. This meant I could use the speeds of things seeming to fall as a way of judging the effects of the drug. Based on how long it took the book to drift to the floor, I estimated the effects of the drug were still intensifying. I read a magazine, I turned on the television. I clearly saw each frame of video like I was watching a slideshow. Frustrated, I turned the television off. I read some more. The first 2 books of Churchill's A History of the English-Speaking Peoples. Not exactly a light read, and frankly I hated it, but given the hours of tedium it would take to get another book off my bookshelf, just sitting on the couch and reading Churchill was better, or at least less worse. It had now been 35 minutes since I took the Ambien. As I lay on the couch and closed my eyes, time passed. I inhaled. An hours-long process. Time passed. I exhaled for more hours. Sleep would not come. I needed a new plan. I decided to go back to the offices where they gave me the drug. Maybe they would have something that could counteract its effects, or at least something to knock me out until it wore off. I exited my apartment as fast as possible, taking hours in my time frame to do so. I didn't even bother locking the door because it would have taken too long. Down the stairs, it's faster than the elevator if you run, through the lobby, out the front door, and onto the street. These few things felt like a long day at the office. Sprinting down the street, dancing and weaving between pedestrians with what must have looked like to them superhuman dexterity. Down the first flight of stairs at the Metro, across the landing, another hour, then onto the second flight of stairs. That's when the Ambien hit me. The Ambien didn't make me sleepy, not at all. Instead, it must have had a severe cross-reaction with the experimental drug I took this morning. I was bounding down the second flight of stairs, moving in slow motion, but still making perceptible progress. Then, wham! Everything stopped. The dull roar of the street and the metro noise ceased, replaced by the most perfect silence I've ever experienced. My downwards motion seemed to completely freeze. Before the Ambien kicked in, my perception of time was maybe a few hundred times slower than real-world time. After the Ambien took effect, time moved to thousands of times slower. Every second seemed like days to me. Even just moving my eyes to focus on a new point was like an impossibly slow scroll across my visual field. Over the course of the afternoon, I learned how to walk, run, and jump when my mind ran hundreds of times faster than my body, but with another 4 or 5 orders of magnitude of slowed down caused by the Ambien, bodily control was almost impossible. I fell on the stairs. Even though I was all but frozen in mid-step, controlling my muscles was impossible. I commanded my foot forwards for hours, then backwards for hours more when it seemed like I would miss the next step. Hours attempting to adjust the angle of my ankle, then readjusting it when it felt wrong. Despite these efforts, I rolled my ankle on the next step. The pain wasn't at all mitigated by the slowness. Hours of increasing strain on my bent ankle. The nerve signals that send pain into the brain must work differently than the nerves in my ear. Sonic energy was spared out of time, diluted until it was imperceptible. Pain flowed into my brain undiluted by the change in my perception of time. Hours and hours of increasing weight on my turned ankle turned into hours of increasing pain upon increasing pain. I pitched forwards, my high-speed mind completely unable to control my low-speed body. I drifted downward for days, managing to rotate my torso enough to keep my head from impacting the ground first. I eventually landed on my right shoulder. At first, the impact wasn't even noticeable. Then I felt a slight pressure in my shoulder as it came in contact with the ground. The pressure grew, bringing increasing pain for hour upon hour. My shoulder finally gave out, popping out of its socket with an endless, sickening tug. I came to a stop days later, crumpled onto the ground, staring at the ceiling. The pain in my shoulder still screaming with the intensity of a fresh, violent injury. I had plenty of time to think during that fall. If every second seemed like days to me, then each minute of real-world time would be like years. Even if the drug cleared out of my system in the next 2 or 3 hours, this nightmare would seem to last centuries. By the time I hit the ground, I had a plan. I would somehow get to the platform and throw myself in front of a train. I twisted onto my hands and knees, days of my dislocated shoulder crying for relief. I misjudged my rotation and rolled onto my back. I tried again, collapsing onto my face as I tried to figure out how to control a body that moved slower than grass grew. Weeks of effort were finally rewarded with success. I stabilized on my hands and knees. If just getting on all fours was this difficult, I figured that walking or running was completely out of the question. So I crawled. I crawled through the metro tunnel. The dumb looks on the faces in the crowd lingered on me for weeks. I crawled under the turnstile and onto the escalator. The escalator spilled the rush hour crowd onto the platform at the same speed as a glacier spills ice into the sea. I looked out over the crowded platform during my interminable downward ride. The train status sign said the next train wouldn't arrive for 20 minutes. This was like a year to me. I would have to spend a year on the metro platform, waiting to die. I crawled off the escalator, enduring days of stupid expressions on the commuters' faces. I crawled a few feet to a concrete bench and curled up next to it, trying to find a position to lessen the pain in my shoulder. Then my problem with time got worse. Impossibly worse. The massive slowdown on the stairs was just the beginning of the interaction between the experimental drug and the Ambien. It fully hit me while I was curled up on the bench. I blinked. Years of darkness followed. Sound was already gone, and with my blink, sight was gone as well. All that existed was the pain from my fall. My hyper-accelerated mind wasted no time compensating for the lack of sensory input. Voices spoke to me. They sung to me in languages that never existed. Patterns and faces and colors came and went in my mind's eye. I recalled my whole life and imagined living another. I forgot English. I settled into a profound despair. I spoke to God. I became God. I imagined a new universe and brought it all to life with my thoughts, and then I did it all again and again. My eyes opened with geologic slowness. A faint glow. Weeks. A slit of light. Weeks. A narrow view of the metro platform. Ankles of the commuters near me and an advertisement on an opposite wall. I extracted my phone from my pocket, a project that spanned decades. How can I even explain the boredom? The pain in my shoulder is nothing compared to the boredom. Every thought I can think, I have thought hundreds of times already. The view of ankles and advertisements never changes. Never. The boredom is so intense, it's tangible, like a solid object of metal and stone wedged into my skull. Inescapable. What are my options? If I crawl and fall into the tracks without an oncoming train to crush me, I wouldn't die. I'd experience even more pain from the 4-foot fall, but I'd most likely be rescued by some do-gooder on the platform and unable to act when the train finally does arrive. My suffering in that scenario would be endless. So I wait for the train so I can throw myself under it. When it finally hits me, I'll experience the pain of being ripped to pieces for centuries until finally the light of life leaves my brain and my experience ends. I've lived hundreds of lifespans at the foot of this bench. I am far older in spirit than any human who has ever lived. Most of my life experience has been a snapshot of pain huddled on the floor of a subway platform with an unchanging view of ankles and advertisements. This post is my plan B, my Hail Mary, a long shot. I've spent lifetimes typing and posting this message in the hope that someone reads it and will become convinced that my suffering must end. Someone on this platform right now. Someone who will find the man curled under the bench, the man who crawled down the escalator, and kill him as swiftly as possible. A bullet to the temple. If you're armed and at the Glenmont Metro, please shoot me.
I think that's got to be one of the greatest creepypastas you've ever shown me in our entire friendship.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
That's crazy.
Oh
Hold on.
man.
Hold on. We need the
Oh
lights back for this.
yeah. Let's
Wow.
welcome back.
Wow, that was a good one. Holy
That was a
shit.
really good one.
That was really, really good. Wow. What was that one called again?
That one is called "If You're Armed and at the Glenmont Metro, Please Shoot Me" by Peter Frost David.
I don't think we could have ended it on a better one. And honestly, once again, great reading, Kyle. That was
Thank
really,
you.
really good.
It was a really fun one. I really liked Click the Link too, though.
Mhm.
That's like my teenage years, you know.
Yeah, and that was the stuff that I was
Yeah,
afraid was going to happen to me on the
exactly. Yeah,
internet.
because I was at the end of the Netflix horror logs by
Oh yeah.
2014 for sure. You
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Back when Netflix was $7.99. Come on.
hmm
I remember the days.
Oh yeah. But yeah, there's a little plate of some spooky spaghetti for you guys. I hope it'll hold you over until next time. We're definitely going to be coming back and doing some more creepy pastas in the future.
Yes, and next week, a little treat for you folks. You guys are actually
Yeah.
getting a preview of our Patreon show, The Wednesday Phenomena, and I'm very, very the Wednesday Phenomena, and I'm very excited for you guys to get into that episode. And then
Me
after that,
too.
we'll be back with more new content for you folks.
Mhm.
So stick around, hit the subscribe, comment what you want us to talk about,
Hit
all
that
of that good
bell,
stuff.
turn notifications on, all that jazz.
Yeah, come
Like,
on.
comment, and subscribe.
Let's do it. Do
Yeah.
all of that stuff
If
down in
you
there.
legit though, if you want to hear us cover, if you want to hear us read a creepy pasta for you guys,
Yes.
let us know. Tell us which ones you want to hear. If you write creepy pastas and you want us to read some that you've written, hit us up. I would be more than happy to. Arden would be
Would love that.
more than happy to. If you're enjoying the podcast, hit us up on social media. They'll all be linked down in the description below as well. And again, we're going to give you a preview of our Patreon next week. And if you end up enjoying it, go ahead and subscribe to our Patreon. We could really use it and we appreciate it more than you know.
Yes, at the $1 tier, you get our all of our old archived content from previous Back
Mhm.
Ashford's years. And then at the $5 tier, you get all of that plus the Discord server, plus the Wednesday phenomena. You also get the Discord server at the $1 tier, but you get the Wednesday phenomena at the $5 tier. And so come join us on Patreon. It's so much fun. I love it.
It's a blast. We have a great time over there.
Yes.
And speaking of Patreon, we haven't done it yet. We're supposed to do it. So quick shout out to our patrons here.
Oh,
Shout out.
yes, and we'll put them in the credits as well.
Yes. Oh, is that what we're doing? I thought we were doing a
Yeah.
vocal shout out. My bad. Well,
No,
I already
no.
said it. Quick vocal shout out to our patrons
Yeah.
already. Bryce, Almond, Kathleen, Mama Houston, and Ashley Birch. Thank you guys so much for supporting us for as long as you have. Means the world. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to the episode, you guys. We'll see you next
Yes.
week. My name is Kyle,
I'm Arden.
and we'll see you next week unless
Unless.
you sign up for a drug testing trial and they give you some freaky fucking reverse limitless pill shit and you end up trapped in a time dilution paradox. Then we'll see you in roughly 70 to 80,000 years.
And when you're doing that, just have a lot of books nearby already open
Oh,
so
a
that
lot of
you
books.
can stay sane and stay safe.
Yeah. The danger is real, my friends.
And make sure all of those books are Moby Dick so that you can stay weird.
Yeah, some thick, chunky ones, you know. And if you could maybe like get a couple pages like preloaded, you know, that way you don't have to flip quite as
Yeah,
many.
they're like midair.
Yeah. Just
The
cast
danger
a
is
book
real, my
in
friend.
resin with each page just slightly open. That way you can. Perfect.
The danger
We'll
is
see you
real, my
guys next
friend. Watch out for pharmaceutical drugs.
Okay, I brush my teeth and I sip, drink. It's pearly white, ain't like the same.
I'm just saying, your team collabs with Drizzy, dude.
Okay, but here's the question: When? When did
When?
that happen?
It's on their official merchandise website right now. I'll show it
Right
to you.
now? Oh,
I'll show it
right
to you.
now. That's rough.
I'll
So
show
I was
it to
gonna
you.
say, if it was in like 2018, I could let that slide. You know?
I'll show it to you.
Yeah. In the year of our Lord 2025 is a little more rough.
Oh my god, this didn't help at all. This one. Boom. Caught.
Yeah, that's not great. Okay. But
Caught
there was a
red
bunch of
fucking
teams that
handed.
had the collab there. Do the
I know.
Buccaneers?
No, of course
Okay.
not. Let's
Of
look.
course not. Shut the fuck up. We have morals. We wouldn't do things for money. We're a proper sports team.
Oh wait,
There's
there's
4
4
pages
pages.
there.
Let's get this to the NFL.
There's still plenty of room. You're so nervous right now. I think you're safe though. You're safe. Okay.
One more time, just to verify. No. Oh my god!
Damn it.
Oh
Damn
my
it.
god!
God damn it.
I'm so happy.
God damn it. You win this round.
Dude, the Glazer family would never. That's the actual name of the family that owns the team.
You need to stop.
I hardly fucking know her, dude.
Glazer. Isn't that just every single fucking Buccaneers fan?
Hey.
See, I can sports talk. I got this.
No.
No.
Why you only mean to me? Why are you only mean about my team? I guess I was being mean about your team first. Okay. It's
Yeah,
fine.
you started this.
I
Who's
did.
the
You're
real
right.
Drake fan here? Fucking starting beef and then getting mad
You're
when
right.
someone
You're
pushes
right.
back. I thought we were rhyming.
Hey, Kyle, come on. What the hell? We were just talking about sports, man. Why'd you have to make it so fucking personal, dude? That's so fucking funny. You got me, dude. You got me.